Welcome back to Light the Fuse, and whew, we're in the middle of Threepril. And how are you feeling about it, Charles?
Hashtag Threepril.
Hashtag Threepril.
How do you spell Threepril?
I think it's THREEPRIL.
Why not just the number 3 and then PRIL?
We could do it.
Oh boy.
But we're in the middle of it, and we're back at Charles Hood.
Yes, hello, I'm Charles, you're Drew.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of this great month talking about Mission Impossible 3.
Yeah, I feel like we there are people who love MI3 out there, and we don't give it as much love as some of the people out there, and we feel like Threepril is all about giving MI3 some love.
Yeah, it's time to make amends.
Yes.
Yeah. And another big thing in Threepril is the launch of our Patreon, which is up right now.
Yes.
Sign up if you want extra nonsense from us, or you know what, just throw us a couple bucks. What do you care?
Yeah.
Skip the latte and give us that cash.
We put a lot of time and effort into this, and we'd love to get some help.
Some we're not even making any money. We're climbing out of debt. Yeah. So you think editing out that lawnmower from the Brad Bird series was easy? It wasn't, and it was expensive. So please give us that cash.
But thank you so much for listening.
Yeah,
of course. And we hope that you'll give us $1.
Yeah, and we're getting back into the making of Mission Impossible 3, a fascinating, maelstrom of activity.
Yeah, it seems like the most insane pre-production.
Yeah.
But as we get into the production today, maybe the smoothest production.
Yeah, not a lot of hiccups.
All of the movies have crazy productions, except for kind of this one.
Yeah, finished script and everybody got along, and I mean, there's still drama. Still listen to this episode. That's not the whole thing. But
don't just skip to the next episode. We got some good stuff here. There's some juicy tidbits.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh yeah. So we're in July 2005. Okay. Principal photography begins in Italy. So crews started shooting scenes in Rome by whizzing past the camera in a speedboat. All traffic was barred from the historic river Tiber for the day. And do you remember these photos coming out? These were like the first photos.
Yeah. They were all over the place.
Yeah,
and then on the speedboat.
Yeah, because it was just anybody could take a picture. Yeah. And yeah, that was awesome. That was such a great way to introduce the movie and the production.
Kick everything off.
Yeah.
So in the production notes, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers says, quote, "We're flying along in this speedboat, going through these archways, and all of a sudden I hear the sound in my head, the theme to Mission Impossible, dun, 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 and I realize it's actually coming from Tom. Tom's actually singing it. He's still that same kid sitting down with popcorn and ice cream to watch the show on a Friday evening. He still believes in the magic of it." That's
amazing. That's a great story.
I love the idea of Cruise just driving this motorboat singing the mission.
Yeah, were they actually shooting anything?
Yeah, we're doing a take, Tom. Stop singing the theme song.
We got to do this. So in the commentary track on the Blu-ray release, Cruise and JJ say they couldn't control the crowds in the Vatican exteriors, so they had to set up a phony film shoot a block and a half away with 3 girls in bikinis and 3 old nuns in order to distract the crowds. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Very Italian thing.
I hope if anybody was there in Italy, if they've got pictures of this phony shoot of bikinis and nuns, that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, please send it to us.
Also mentioned in the commentary track, Maggie Q learned how to drive for this movie. And then she actually hit a parked car while driving the Lamborghini. Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Cruise also says in the commentary that Maggie Q was trained for fighting by Jackie Chan. She had a very tiny role in Rush Hour 2. I think she was Brett Ratner's girlfriend at the time, actually.
Oh.
And so she played like girl in car. She was a very tiny role. And then she was in Around the World in 80 Days with Jackie Chan. So, I love a little shout out. I always love my shout outs to Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
So I love Jackie.
I'm surprised you didn't know this about her and him, though. If you know so much about Jackie Chan.
Well, I'm sorry.
All right, I guess this isn't a Jackie Chan podcast. We gotta get going. So the production moved from Rome to Naples. The Palazzo Reale della Regia di Caserta.
Perfect.
All right. Just outside of Naples, doubled for the Vatican for part of the sequence. So I imagine that's the garden sequence. That whole thing.
A lot
the
of
wall.
Exterior, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the interiors as well. So that's some of the ceilings and things that they were shooting for the Vatican. Then the production shifted to California. They shot at a factory in Fontana, California for the exteriors of the Berlin factory. There are a couple of second unit shots from an actual factory in Berlin where JJ really wanted to shoot, but they couldn't afford to. So mostly the exteriors are in Fontana and the interiors are in a building in downtown LA, which was actually where JJ shot the pilot for Alias.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of Alias also you've been to the Disney lot before. Have you ever gone down in the tunnels between buildings where they would bring the animation cells back in the day?
No.
That was where they shot a lot of. Anytime Sydney Bristow is in a tunnel, it's in those tunnels. It's interesting though that they never got to Germany. Like the whole thing was about Germany, and they shot some second unit stuff.
Yeah, they had some shots of the factory.
Wow.
JJ talked about this factory that he really loved there, but they just couldn't afford to shoot there.
Crazy. So for the epic bridge ambush, there are only a couple of establishing shots that were done on the actual Chesapeake Bay Bridge. Other than that, it was shot entirely in Calabasas, California. Production designer Scott Chambliss, who we love, built the bridge over land, and ILM added all the water in post. You can see on some of the special features footage of them on a bridge that's not too far off the ground in the middle of a field, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That is some seamless stuff.
Yeah.
Especially how much of it you see.
Yeah. ILM did phenomenal work.
Wow.
Crazy. So J.J. Abrams has a nice quote about the stunt of Cruise getting knocked into the side of the car. In an interview with Indie London, he says, quote, "It's not great because he ran and got slammed into a car. It's great because if you watch his face, if you watch how he is running with such utter fear, he is selling the idea that a missile is literally about to blow up the car he is in. When he hits that car, his performance as he hits and then immediately after he hits is as good as it gets."
That is like an iconic moment from the movie.
Yeah,
People either love or hate.
When you watch trailers for the Mission Impossible franchise, that shot's always in every one of them.
And was that I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, was that the shot that JJ worked on? He did one shot.
No, it's not. He didn't. I don't know what the shots were that he worked on. I think he might have mentioned them in the commentary, but it wasn't that one. Okay.
So, legendary stuntman and action director Vic Armstrong also worked on the film. He and Cruise first worked together on Ridley Scott's Legend. Armstrong has worked on Terminator 2, the Indiana Jones movies, Brazil, American Werewolf in London, the original Superman, James Bond movies, going all the way back to You Only Live Twice in 1967. I mean, this guy is huge.
Yeah.
And his son, I think, is in the business now.
And his son did a car flip in the movie.
Oh, really?
They talk about it in the commentary. Cruise is like, "This is Vic's son." There's a car that flips on the bridge sequence.
What a cool family business.
Yeah. Vic Armstrong also has a quote about Cruise getting tossed into the car. In the production notes, he says, "Cruise hits it so hard he blows out the back window. We controlled the rig. On explosion, we ratcheted him into the side of the car, and he really hit it. He went in horizontally, flying through the air. The impact dented the door on the vehicle, and then we did the stunt 2 or 3 more times. Tom really is game. If any stuntman had that shot on their resume, they would be very, very proud of it."
So the glass blowing out is real?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh my God. Okay, so now we're at the scene where Ethan's on top of the building in Shanghai. He actually wasn't. They recreated that at the top of the building at Universal Studios and had gigantic green screens all around it. ILM stitched shots of Shanghai around him. Take a look at the shot again and how the camera swoops in and then spins around Ethan and Luther. It's really impressive VFX work. I wonder if that's the same parking garage where they did
Lost World?
Lost World, yeah.
I wonder, too, if they dressed that up to look like the top of the Shanghai
Yeah.
building.
I used to live across the street from that garage.
Right.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah, it's funny when you watch Lost World. It's also ILM, isn't it? Really impressive work.
Yeah.
They did that whole thing of the going over the edge of that cliff. It's all at Universal.
Yeah.
And I feel like where the series is now, ever since Ghost Protocol, doing that way, they wouldn't do it that way.
No.
That now after the Dubai sequence, they would really put Cruise on top of that building in Shanghai and actually do it. And that's the difference that where the series has gone ever since Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, for sure.
This was the end of that era.
Maybe that's why this one was so smooth, was that they didn't have to dangle him off of a building anywhere.
Yeah. So when Ethan jumps off the building in Shanghai, they did all that at Universal. However, it's not all CGI. In the production notes, Vic Armstrong talks about the stunt. Quote, "He jumps and free falls for about 50 feet. It was essential that Tom perform the stunt. Not only do we see the jump and the fall, but Tom acting as the character falling. It wasn't about just having the guts to shut his eyes and jump on a bungee jump. Tom not only had to jump, but act as well. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen an actor do."
And again, he only has made this more impressive. You know, him piloting the helicopter at the end of Fallout.
Yeah.
And being a great actor.
And this is from Vic Armstrong, who's been the stunt double for Indiana Jones and James Bond. And I mean, he's a legend.
So J.J. Abrams said about that stunt, "Tom drops, stopping 18 inches above the concrete, and I found myself talking to someone else between the takes. I realized I had become complacent about having Tom Cruise, who is entirely my responsibility, dangling from a crane, dropping at breakneck speed, stopping just above the ground. I remember thinking, I have to get back to being terrified. I wonder if he's actually talking about the shot where he falls in front of the truck.
Yeah, it's possible. This article, I pulled it, and I wondered the same thing. Because it talks about stopping 18 inches from the ground, and if that's from... You're talking about the Vatican part?
No, I'm talking about when he in Shanghai at the end, when he's chasing the rabbit foot around.
This is amazing. How many times does Cruise fall in this movie and get close to the ground?
Yeah. So another quote from JJ about Cruise's stunt work. In an interview with MovieWeb from WonderCon 2006, WonderCon's going on right now, that was recording this, he says, a stuntman can train and prep over a course of weeks for a single stunt or two, do it and then ice up all day or come down from it. But Tom would do these stunts day after day after day, and then, often in the same day, do scenes and come in totally prepared. So seeing dramatic scenes, same day as...
I never thought about that, but when you think about a stunt person comes in, they come in for a day, they do their stunt, but he's not only doing those stunts, he's also got to learn his lines that day.
Yeah.
And do everything else as well.
And emotes and...
So downtown Los Angeles stood in for Shanghai during some of the car chase after Hunt nabs the rabbit's foot. Then there's the part where Cruise is on the ground and almost gets run over by a truck. Here's another Vic Armstrong quote. For this stunt, Tom lay in the street as a jackknifed rig, which is a 40-foot truck with a tractor unit on the front of it, drives over him. If any of those cylinders failed, the truck would straighten out and flatten Tom.
Wow. Good Lord. So let's get into some fun tidbits, mostly about various stages of work on the film. A lot of these come from Cruise and JJ's commentary on the Blu-ray, which is that on the digital? No, that's just Blu-ray.
I think it's only on the Blu-ray. Okay. So the iTunes release of MI3 has a bunch of special features, a bunch, but they don't have the commentary. And as far as I can tell at this point now, you can only get that commentary on the Blu-ray.
Okay.
It's a great commentary. It's JJ and Cruise, and here's some really fun tidbits. There's a bunch.
So they redid the opening scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman holding the gun instead of Eddie Marsan. Poor Marsan, who's a great actor, but JJ said he was a good sport about it. Can you imagine the movie without Hoffman doing that scene? I don't think Marsan has any dialogue in the final version.
Another tidbit from the commentary, production designer Scott Chambliss was asked by J.J. Abrams to style Ethan's house after his own. JJ was a little freaked out when he got to set. He was like, "This is my bathroom." So in the commentary, Cruise goes on to say that the apartment in Eyes Wide Shut was actually modeled after Stanley Kubrick's apartment in New York City, which I thought was fascinating.
That's interesting.
So
when was he living in New York City? Wasn't he
Kubrick?
Yeah.
Maybe he just always had a place in New York.
Wow. Even though he never left that camp in London.
England?
Yeah. So this is the most pivotal section of this because we love the lip reading.
Yes, we do.
And it was actually Cruise's idea. It was initially meant as a character thing. It was supposed to show that Ethan's spy skills just couldn't turn off, even in normal situations. But then later, Cruise had the idea to have Crudup mouth to Ethan when he's detained, and it became a great payoff. And I think it works on both. I read it sort of as both, too, that he just, he's kind of addicted to this life. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
And
then it ends up in Ghost Protocol as well.
Yeah.
And I hopefully it will come back again. We love the lip reading.
Yeah, it's great. He's a great lip reader.
Another fun thing, JJ says that using the disposable camera to deliver the IMF message was actually Steven Spielberg's idea.
But did we look and see that was in an episode of Alias also?
Oh, was it?
I think so. We found some list of correlations.
Oh, there's a great article. Yeah, we'll bring that up again later.
Cruise has known Lawrence Fishburne since he was a teenager. They never actually worked together until this film. That's kind of strange that they had never been in a movie together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we love Brassel. He's great. And his line delivery is just perfect.
Yeah, they should bring him back.
Yeah.
Why not? I hope they bring back Kittredge, Brassel. They should just have a little board meeting of all the middle management bosses. Swanbeck, of course, Swanbeck.
Yeah.
Another fun thing, Philip Seymour Hoffman was a wrestler in high school, and he brought that athleticism to the scene where he's playing Ethan climbing through the rafters at the Vatican, which was done on a soundstage.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Simon Pegg was cast late into shooting, and I think we've talked about it before that this was that Ricky Gervais had been initially approached. He was in an episode of Alias.
Yes.
It was said in the Hollywood Reporter on October 11th, 2005, that they had started shooting in July. JJ said, "I've been dying to work with Simon since I saw Shaun of the Dead. His comedic skill is remarkable. He's able to be hysterically funny while always seeming 100% real, even when he's killing zombies with vinyl records." Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And not at all, very different than probably what Gervais would have brought to it. And also interesting that, he's worked on so many more movies with JJ since, the 2 Star Treks, all the Mission Impossibles. So this was the beginning of a nice creative partnership.
Yeah, and I don't think Gervais could have brought Benji into the field. I don't know if you could picture Gervais coming into the field as much.
No.
Yeah. The British newspaper The Daily Mirror said in January of 2005 that Ricky Gervais had been offered a role. I don't know for certain if it was for the role of Benji, but Vulture had a rundown of all of Gervais's lost roles that never came to be, and they are certain he was going to play Benji.
Okay.
They say Gervais had to drop out because he decided to take a supporting role in the movie For Your Consideration, which was directed by his hero, Christopher Guest.
Not a great choice, maybe, in retrospect? Not a great movie?
No, I love Christopher Guest, and I love Best in Show. It's one of my absolute favorite movies, and Waiting for Guffman's great, and Mighty Wind's great. Of course, Spinal Tap, which he wrote and starred in, is great. But For Your Consideration was not his best work.
No.
And, yeah, too bad.
In the sequence when Hunt is handcuffed to the chair, Tom's hand actually portrays other people's hands twice. First, when Eddie Marsden injects the explosive into his brain through his nose, that's actually Tom's hand. And then later, when Hunt bites Billy Crudup's hand, it's just Cruise biting his own hand. Abrams said he thought it would be weird to ask Cruise to bite Crudup. Is it weirder than asking him to bite his own hand, though? That's my question.
Amazing. Tom Cruise was holding cue cards for Crudup in the scene in which Musgrave reveals that he's a villain. The scene was only written that morning, and Crudup didn't have time to learn his lines, which is very reminiscent of the climax of Rogue Nation, except at that time it was Simon Pegg holding up index cards for Tom Cruise.
Wow.
One more fun tidbit. J.J. Abrams and Tom Cruise talk about how great the dog was in the scene when Tom Cruise goes to 7-Eleven. They say the dog nailed it on the first take. Oh. And this is the dog the golden retriever. I think it was a golden retriever. Yeah. It's Ethan Hunt's dog that we talk about a lot in this show. And I feel like they should have brought him back. If the dog was so good and did it in one take, bring back the dog. It's
a real dangling Chad.
I mean, now it's 13 years since MI3, so I feel like this dog's probably not still alive.
Yeah,
but who knows? Ethan Hunt stays in such good shape. Maybe he keeps his dog in good shape.
Yeah. Another thing about that scene I love too is the way that he tosses out the ice. It's just a great, just very fluid.
Yeah.
So getting back to the production, after this, the production moves to China, and this is in November 2005. They're shooting for a month in and outside of Shanghai, so they actually went, got the footage. One scene required government permission to leave the city's buildings lit up all night so they could look more dramatic in the film. That must be an energy thing or something.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And that's those shots of Shanghai are beautiful with all the lights and everything.
And Tom Cruise says in the commentary that a couple of guys in the Shanghai rooftop sequence were from Jackie Chan's stunt team.
Wow.
And Jackie Chan has a legendary stunt team that he's been doing. I think every 5 years there's turnover and everything, but he has the Jackie Chan stunt team is what they're called. And they've been going for probably 30, 40 years now.
They do other people's movies too?
Well, not. I think they branch out and do their own stuff, but when they're doing Jackie Chan stunt team work, they're just with Jackie Chan movies. But they're obviously a legendary crew.
Yeah.
There's a great video of them. I think when he won his Oscar, they all surprise him, like his entire stunt crew from decades before.
Oh, wow.
He's accepting an award, and then they all sneak up behind him on stage, and then he's in the middle of giving a speech, and he turns back and sees them, and he's like, and he didn't know they were going to be there, and he starts crying, and it's it's a really cool thing.
That's great. For Cruise's sprint along the river in China, they use what's called a spider cam. And is this what they use at football games now and stuff, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay. It's on a wire.
Yeah, and that's for that epic shot of him sprinting along the river.
Such a great shot.
Spider cam. So then in the Hollywood Reporter on December 20th, 2005, Paramount congratulates the filmmakers of MI3 on wrapping in Shanghai on November 29th, 2 days ahead of schedule. It was a 100-day shoot and $150 million budget. They finished ahead of schedule and under budget. JJ's TV background might have contributed to that.
Yeah, probably.
It seems like MI3 had the rockiest pre-production, but the smoothest production. An uncharacteristically smooth production for these movies.
Yeah. The script is at the WGA library, so we got to go and check it out.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so we'll have to take a look. But it seems like the script, they stayed pretty close to the script.
Yeah.
So we're going to just talk about who was involved in this movie, the department heads and other crew, because we love everybody that works on these. So Cinematographer was Dan Mandel. He's a South African cinematographer. He started with Tony Scott on Enemy of the State. He was a camera operator before that on a bunch of movies, and he did Spy Game and Domino. He also did the Jackie Chan movie Shanghai Noon, to bring it back to Jackie Chan. And he's done other work with JJ on both of the Star Trek movies, both of the Star Wars movies, and Cloverfield Paradox.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, Dan Mandel's work is great.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
He does great stuff.
He loves those lens flares.
Yeah, they're great. They're real.
Anamorphic lens flares.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So Colleen Atwood was costume designer. She's won 4 Oscars and has been nominated 12 times. I love her work on Tim Burton's movies like Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd. She did the new one, Dumbo, and other ones as well. She's also worked with Jonathan Demme on a few films, including Silence of the Lambs. Rest in peace, Jonathan Demme, amazing director, obviously. But she does pretty much all of Rob Marshall's movies, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So Rob Marshall did Chicago,
Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah. And she's also done a few Michael Mann movies. And this is a strange side note, but I have to bring it up. She also designed the amazing costume for the Tick in the short-lived live-action series in 2001 that I feel was very ahead of its time.
I love that show.
It was a single-cam show that Barry Sonnenfeld directed the pilot, and it's Patrick Warburton as the Tick, and that costume is awesome.
Yeah.
For a
I think she does a lot of the Arrowverse shows. She always does the hero costume. Yeah. And I met her on the set of Dumbo.
Yeah, you mentioned that before in one of our previous episodes.
She's amazing.
You said she's very humble.
She's just a very cool artist type, and she does great work on Dumbo, which is out now.
Yeah,
and some amazing costumes there. You see Michael Keaton in stripes again, very different stripes. It's amazing. Anyway, so former MMA fighter Buster Reeves was the fight coordinator and stuntman on the film, making several appearances playing different characters. Since MI3, Reeves has served as Tom Hardy's stunt double and as a stunt coordinator on the first season of Game of Thrones, which is not bad.
And then Sid Mead designed the mask maker field case. So the whole thing, making the mask in the Vatican for Philip Seymour Hoffman. Mead is a famous visual futurist who did design work for Blade Runner, Tron. He designed Johnny 5 for Short Circuit. And he did spaceship design for James Cameron's Aliens. He is a legend.
He's a legend.
So it's such a fun little trivia tidbit that he designed the mask maker
case.
That then they use that design again in Ghost Protocol.
And he worked with Bird on some concepts for Tomorrowland as well. Yeah.
Okay.
The land itself. Yeah. So Chase Brandon, which sounds like a fake name, was a CIA advisor on the film who worked for the CIA for 25 years, and he was an advisor for Alias, 24, Enemy of the State, Sum of All Fears.
So you think it was a fake name?
Yeah.
Because he works for the CIA, he's got a fake name.
But I mean, I guess that speaks to how they wanted it to be more kind of authentic.
Right.
And we see the IMF offices for the first time in this one.
Yeah.
So he probably advised on that.
Which is such a fun sequence when he climbs up through the ceiling and comes out of the Department of Transportation or whatever. Yeah, it's fun.
That's great.
There's a half-hour Food Network special about the catering from MI3. The caterer, Frank Woodward, met Tom on Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders when Tom was 19 years old. Tom loved him and said he wanted him on all of his movies. And most of this Food Network special is like a mission. It's basically a Mission Impossible for this caterer. He's making Thanksgiving dinner for the whole crew in China, and he's trying to find turkeys. And so there's intense Michael Giacchino score with this guy Frank going through China trying to find turkeys.
Wow. This is on the iTunes version.
This is the iTunes special features.
Wow.
It's a good one. Worth checking out.
So we're going to move on to editing. So the editors were Marianne Brandon and Mary Jo Markey, Marianne has worked with JJ on all of his films, plus 27 episodes of Alias. Mary Jo Markey has worked with Marianne on most of JJ's movies, plus she cut 14 episodes of Alias, 12 episodes of Lost, and 14 episodes of Felicity. And Marianne actually directed 2 episodes of Alias, so that's very cool.
Yeah.
So these are long-term JJ people.
Yeah. And there's, speaking of editing, there's a deleted scene in the iTunes special features where at Kerry Russell's funeral, Musgrave says to Ethan, "You didn't know about me and Lindsay, did you?" So cut from the movie there's a Billy Crudup, Kerry Russell romance that was a secret that's cut out of the movie.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because they make it seem like one avenue that you could read was that Cruise had some kind of relationship with her.
because Ving Rhames says the line about, he says that Cruise says she's like my sister, and he's like, you never slept with your sister,
right?
Did you? And maybe there was just too much talk of romance with Kerry Russell. They decided to cut it, but I'm glad they cut it. It just seems like not necessary.
Yeah, but it does make him like more of a bad guy. If he kills his girlfriend, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Another thing is that Kerry Russell's death was more gruesome than it was in the final cut. Originally, blood squirted onto Ethan's face after the detonation went off, and ILM had to clean that up in post. Is that on the? Is that version?
I think JJ talks about that in the commentary. I think he says ILM had to remove blood that was like practical blood that was squirted on Ethan Hunt's face.
I would love to see that. I know
you have a thirst for blood.
I have a thirst for blood. Yeah, I think that would be cool.
So now let's talk about visual effects. ILM did an amazing job on this movie. We're working on getting an interview with one of ILM's artists who worked on this film, and he also worked on Ghost Protocol. So we're just waiting on his schedule to clear, but that should be happening soon, and I think it will be happening. So
I can't wait.
Yeah.
This is when ILM was still in the mix.
Yeah.
An interesting thing to note that J.J. Abrams actually did a couple of VFX shots and is credited as a digital artist in the movie.
Yeah.
I love that he has to get into it, but we can't.
Right.
We'll find out.
He talks
shots.
about it in the commentary, and he kind of laughs about it, making it seem like maybe he didn't do that much,
or that his weren't as good.
So let's talk about music. There was a New York Times article on May 7th, 2006, all about MI3's music. In it, Michael Giacchino says of his score, it has 1 foot in the 60s and 1 foot in the 21st century. That was really the goal from day one, to anchor it where it was born and yet take it somewhere hopefully very fun and new and different.
So in this same article, Lalo Schifrin has never been asked to do a score for one of the movies, but he's not unhappy about it. So he says, I feel great because new generations of filmgoers and people in general are becoming acquainted with the theme. It's like a bridge across time, and maybe it's a good idea because other composers can have a fresh approach.
That's so cool.
It's a very generous approach.
Yeah, he's so nice about it that he's not upset that he's never been asked to do it. It'd be cool to have him do one.
Yeah.
But obviously he's getting older and older.
Time is not on our side.
Yeah, someone should have him do something for it. It'd be cool. When Giacchino was hired, he actually asked Lalo to lunch, and Lalo ended up telling him how much he enjoys his music on Lost, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing that Giacchino was still doing weekly music for a TV show while doing all these huge movies.
Yeah.
But here's a crazy fact. So actor Dermot Mulroney, who you'll know from My Best Friend's Wedding, About Schmidt, Zodiac, Family Stone, actually plays cello in the orchestra for the MI3 score.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting. I didn't know he was that much. I mean, scores don't take very long to do. I've heard you record them in a few days, but that's pretty interesting.
They have a little interview featurette with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the iTunes special features. I think he even came back for Ghost Protocol.
Really?
Because I think he was kind of buddies with Giacchino or something, and he bugged him about doing this. So I think he's done a few Giacchino scores.
That's awesome.
And so when Giacchino returned for Ghost Protocol, I think he returned as
well. So he was in the Family Stone, and he scored. He maybe scored part of it. Well, Giacchino did it, so yeah.
Also, one of the 5 percussionists was Emil Richards, who 30 years earlier played bongos on the original Mission Impossible theme.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So we're obsessed with the kind of pop songs that have percolated from this franchise. And here's a report from the LA Times on February 12th, 2006, that Tom Cruise has tapped Kanye West to follow in the footsteps of U2 and Limp Bizkit. Cruise solicited West's services and refused to take no for an answer. Tom told MTV News, when you see an artist you just respect and he's so talented, I was like, man, I'd love to see what he's going to do with this. It's Kanye West and it's really extraordinary. I looked at him and said, man, you killed it. And I wonder if he's talking about the song or the...
I think he's talking about the song, probably.
But that version of the theme is so cool.
I know, yeah. So we are in love with... there's a theme at the very end of the MI3 credits that John Bryan did with Kanye. I assume it's John Bryan playing all the instruments on it, and it's a version of the Mission Impossible theme. It's just a little fun little nugget at the end of the movie. So in that same article, J.J. Abrams says Kanye aided his goal of creating, quote, a movie that is familiar but also absolutely brand new. West recorded 2 new songs for the soundtrack, as we said. So it was the theme song that was in the very back end of the credits, and then the song called Impossible.
Have we ever... Is that song ever... It's not on the soundtrack?
No.
So it just never came out?
No, I ripped a bootleg of it.
Yeah, but
so
even the song he did.
Oh, the song Impossible?
Yeah.
That's a single. That's out.
Oh, it's out?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You can get that.
All right,
Pretty sure.
All right, well, okay.
So I think that's maybe enough to cover this week, and we should come back next week and finish it up. And next week we'll do, so we did the production this time. Next time we'll do the promotion and the release and the aftermath. And you know, just to get you excited about some of those things, there's exploding newspaper bins and a stunt show at a major theme park and an HD DVD special feature that we really wish we could get our hands on. Just to tease you a little bit about what we're going to cover next week.
Yes, and remember to rate, review on wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you want to contribute to the Patreon, we'd love it.
Yes,
and,
it's www.patreon.com/LightTheFuse.
And we'll be back next week with the third part of our Making a Mission Possible 3.
Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod and email us questions or comments at lightthefusepodcasts@gmail.com. If you'd like to watch the original Mission Impossible television show, all 7 seasons are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.